Hey guys, in this game I was using magic outside of Hogwarts. This was something spectacular. I got a -5 position, completely losing, and then I started working my magic. It will be very instructive. Stay tuned till the end. So I am playing today Hussein Altunbek, a young player from Kazakhstan, junior player, definitely underrated. In classical chess he's rated like 1900, but in rapid, for example, 2100 plus. So very strong player. I've already once defeated him in the previous tournament, and this time I decided to go for the Jibava Report London system, which I've recently started playing. Check out my previous game in the Jibava, which Report himself, by the way, praised. So this is the second time I'm trying this opening. So this is d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, and bishop f4. That's the starting position of the Jibava. Actually, like I got a losing position pretty quickly, but out of the opening, I got a great position. So let me show this to you. So a6 is one of the moves. There are lots of moves here. e6, a6, c5, bishop f5. So like that's not even all. g6 is another move. So you should be prepared for all of them. a6 is one of the moves. e3, e6, and now g4. g4 is a very aggressive try. I want to push g5. It's very often the case in the Jibava that you are trying to push the pawns on the king side. h4, h5, g4, g5. That's exactly what I'm doing here. So b5, black is trying to hit strike back on the other side of the board, queen side. g5, now the knight has to draw back. And now knight f3, because you cannot just simply push your pawns and not develop your pieces. You need to also develop your pieces. Put the bishop probably here, or in some variations here or here, and then like you can push the pawns. But first you should develop the pieces. So bishop b7, knight e2 is a bit of a subtle maneuver, but the problem with this knight is that it doesn't have any purpose here, because it's not threatening to go anywhere. It's not putting pressure anywhere, because like it's hitting the b5 and the d5 pawns, but they are both well protected. So it's better to rotate it over here, to put the pawn here, to create this triangle, beautiful pawn chain. And then this knight sometimes goes to f4, sometimes it goes to g3. It's better positioned in such a way. So c5, c3. I've strengthened my pawn chain. It's very beautiful, very nice London type of structure. Knight c6, and now h4. Now I'm pushing the pawns. I want to push h5, maybe even go g6 or h6, take some space on the king side. My king is still in the center, that's the problem, but nobody's getting to my king. And his king is also still in the center. And where is this king going? It's definitely not going queen side, because then I'll open up the queen side. So probably the king will go to the king side, but then my pawns will march and attack him. So it's a nice position for white. Rook c8, preparing to create some counterplay over here, probably something like this, maybe infiltrating with the knight or the queen. That are possible plans. But I'm continuing my development, and here I go h5. And around this moment is when my opponent spent like 30 minutes on one move. He really didn't like his position, and he found some nice moves. And from this point onwards, I made a series of bad decisions that led to me having a completely losing position. You will not believe this. So he went knight f8, which is a little bit passive, but it's logical. He's anticipating the g6 push. If he goes g6 himself, I would have sacrificed on e6. That was my idea. And if he takes, I take here, and this rook is pinned. And next, like black is just crushed. For example, if black castles here, then I'm taking here, then this pawn comes next. The knights come next, and like it's all over. So that would have been a nice sacrifice after g6, bishop takes. Of course, he saw it. He went here, intending to go g6 later on. But actually, this is an inaccuracy. So I was also anticipating this move. I think it's logical, but it's too passive. Black should have gone for some active counterplay with queen b6, for example, here. That's one of the moves. Or a5, pushing pawns on the queen side. Turns out it's not too dangerous for him if he's not castled. My g6 push, yes, it will probably come, or h6 push, but I don't have anything concrete. But after knight f8, I still don't have anything concrete, but I have a +1 position. So after 12 moves out of the opening, I have a good +1, but I spoil it immediately. So the computer suggests very slowly improving my position. The top engine move is king f1, just gradually hiding the king. Maybe the king goes to g2. Castling is also possible, but why should I remove the rook from the h file? It's well positioned on the h file. King f1, maybe rook g1, maybe knight g3. Another plan is to drop back the bishop and put the knight here. So I should have taken it slow. Instead, I rushed it. I went rook g1, which is like one of the normal moves, does not lose the advantage. And then after g6, which was like his plan all along, blocking this file, I should have again gone king f1 and waited and gradually improved my position. But I rushed it. I went knight a5, and it completely loses most of the advantage. But it's such a logical move. I thought if he takes, I'll take back, attacking his rook, and then my knight will be able to jump to g3 or f4, creating some pressure. But it turns out there's nothing for me. So he takes, I take, he goes rook g8, and my pawn is hanging, and even though two pawns are hanging, but the h5 pawn definitely is not worth taking for black, because that would weaken the black's pawn structure and king. But the g5 pawn is really hanging, so I have to do something about it, and I go f4, but now he has knight d7. So the knight made this weird back and forth maneuver, but the point is that now he'll take my bishop and he'll have the two bishops advantage, and I'm not breaking through. Unfortunately, I'm not breaking through. So here I go knight g3, he takes, I take, and he goes king d7. A great maneuver. So he just evacuates the king away from the king side. And I realize that I'm no longer better, because he'll evacuate the king, and next he will start attacking me. He has the two bishops advantage. If he opens up the position, his bishops will become monsters. This bishop, they will be snipers, and where's my attack? Suddenly there is no more attack. So I find knight e4. He cannot take because his pawn is pinned to the king, but he continues evacuation of the king. I go here, and he just takes. And I take back, and I have this funny pawn structure, two doubled pawns. They look nice, and actually he has a weakness on f7. Potentially in all endgames, there are ideas of sacking the bishop on e6 and then pushing the pawn and queening it. But it's not an endgame, it's a middle game. And in this middle game, his king is very safe, and my king, it's not clear where it should go. So unfortunately, I've started losing the thread of the position. He just went king b8 here. I went king f2, trying to evacuate my king as well. But now he goes queen b6. And he wants to break the position with b4, c4, d4, something like that. Put the rook on the d file, open this diagonal for the bishop, open this diagonal for the queen, and my king is not safe. I really don't like my position here. So I go queen d2, he goes rook d8. Now his idea is clearly to go d4, and I cannot stop it, unfortunately. The best move, according to the engine, that's retaining the equality for white, is king g3, which is very funny. King g3, just like walking around with the king like he's some drunk guy stumbling across the field. And the king turns out is safe here, but I would have never played such a move. It's too weird. So instead, I go bishop g2. I'm trying to anticipate, because I was anticipating, for example, if I go rook d1 here, there's a problem that there is this d4 move. And if I take like here, there is this idea, and the rook can infiltrate potentially. So I didn't like something along those lines, even though the engine says white is still defending. So I decided after rook d8 that I need to put my bishop on the long diagonal to prevent all this. And he still pushes d4. And turns out that I should just trade the bishops, and I'm a little bit worse, but I'm holding on. Even though I didn't like the fact that the queen will infiltrate over here, and it's obvious from the like human assessment of the position that black is playing for a win. White king is too weak, and white has no counterplay. That's the problem. Even though the engine says it's close to equal, practically speaking, black is like very likely to win this. So after d4, I still should have gone for this, but I went e4 trying to block the diagonals, and now I'm losing. Now it's -4. It's minus 4.6 already. Close to minus 5. On high depth, the engine says it's minus 5. So like black has an extra rook. That's minus 5. That's what it means. Even though material is equal. Why? Because black takes. I take back. And now c4, discover check. And if I go forward, rook d3 forks the king and the queen, and I lose the queen. So if I go here, I also lose the queen because rook d2 check comes. And the king has to stay guarding the queen, but then rook d3 wins the queen anyways. So blocking with the queen is out of the question. But what do I do with this check? I have to go backwards. It's the only move. But now he has rook d3, attacking my queen with a tempo, developing the rook. Only move that I have is queen e1. And now he just doubles on this file and he's completely dominating. Even though he had a better move, c3 would have been even better, but rook d8 is very illogical as well. He's just dominating. I cannot do anything. I cannot even trade the rooks because he'll just take. His rooks take the only open file. He wants to go here if I do nothing. Then probably he can join two rooks on the second rank and just destroy me over here. This is a checkmate that is always threatened. So it's a horrible position for me. I have no counterplay. This rook of mine is not participating in the game whatsoever. My king is weak. My queen is like very clumsy. And I managed to wiggle myself out of this. Check it out, guys. This is a very interesting game. So I take first. He takes, and I go rook h1. My idea for counterplay is to create some counterplay over there. Or, in some variations, maybe go here. And when he goes here, I find a great resource. I saw it from afar. Rook h8, which is the only move that's not losing immediately. So if he takes my rook, I'll take his rook. And I've traded a pair of rooks, which is good for me because I'm being attacked. I need to trade all the pieces and go into an endgame and pray that I'm surviving it. Instead, he takes on b2, so he wins a pawn. I take with check. And now I find a series of only moves, best moves in the position. Rook d1, attacking the queen. Still I'm lost, it's minus 4. But at least I'm posing some problems for my opponent, practical problems. Rook d2, I want to trade the remaining rooks. And if he takes, which is best here, we'll go into an endgame where he definitely is winning because his pawns are marching forward and the c pawn is a passed pawn. But I have some counterplay. I want to push f5. And if he takes, and takes, maybe I push e6. Currently, he's controlling the square, but if he's not, if I somehow manage to force him to take here and push my pawn, I will have a passed pawn, a dangerous passed pawn of my own. So that's a source of potential counterplay. Also, maybe I can take this pawn and then try to push this one. So that's the ideas that I have. Fortunately for me, instead of taking the rook, he plays c3. We are both kind of low on time at this point. And he misses the resource of queen b4. He admitted to me after the game, he just missed this move. And I'm winning this pawn of his. So at least this pawn will be stopped. But in return, he'll take some of my pawns. He goes queen e3. I have to take. And now he takes this pawn with check. And have to go here. Now, what happens if he takes here? Well, nothing too special. He'll be up 2 pawns, but I will have some counterplay. I'll go queen d4. I'll threaten him with some checks, and maybe I have some chance to deliver a perpetual check. He has this check, for example. Then he can take my bishop. It's a losing endgame for me, but I can pretend I can create some counterplay. I can go for his pawn on f7, for example, check, then check like this, take here after the bishop trade. So that would have been my course of action. But instead of taking the e4 pawn, he realizes it's not that important. He continues checking me, checks me like this. And here I block. I block because I realize that if I go here, for example, then he can take here and I no longer have this queen d4. So I don't have much counterplay and I didn't like it. So I decided, okay, I'll offer him a queen trade. I'll be down a pawn in the resulting endgame, bishop endgame, but I have some chances because his f7 pawn is so weak. And if I go with the king here, for example, and go with the bishop here, threaten him with the bishop sacrifice to queen my pawn, probably he can stop it. He can go here. He can also go with his king forward, and probably it's winning, but at least I have some practical chances. So that's what I opted for. after queen e3 and queen f2, but he did not trade the queens. He decided to go queen c3. He wants to take my pawn. Or he wants to take this pawn of mine if my queen loses contact with it. So I go queen f4. I decide to sacrifice the a2 pawn. Yes, you can take this pawn of mine, I decide, because if queen a2, then I have queen h6, and I want to take the f7 pawn. And suddenly the engine says that white has some drawing chances, very good drawing chances actually. It's close to equal. So because of this, after king h2, he does not take this pawn. Instead, he goes b4. He wants to prevent my queen from getting active, because my queen has to stay guarding the e5 pawn, because now if the queen goes here, he has this check. And next he'll take the f6 pawn, and I will have no longer this source of counterplay with those passed pawns. Actually, here I remembered the lesson my grandmaster coach Farukh Amanatov gave me on queen endgames. Very important lesson. He told me, it's not too important in queen endgames how many pawns you have. The important thing is that you have a passed pawn and that you push it as far as possible. So that's basically what I did in this game, and how I managed to create some magic on the board. So first of all, I go king h3. Now this pawn capture will come without a check. The engine says that here black is winning after this, but it's hard to calculate with limited time on the clock. So instead he goes queen c3, checking me. But I just march forward with the king g4. So there are no more checks. My king probably will play an active important role in trying to take his pawn and aiding my passed pawn, future passed pawn, with the queen in. So that was my plan. He goes a5, and it's a mistake. This loses most of the advantage. He should have gone queen c2, and he's still close to winning, even though it's not trivial. It's not trivial. Black has to find some hard moves here. But he goes a5. And now I go queen h6, and my idea is to infiltrate with the queen and take this f7 pawn. And that's a problem for him. He goes here, I check him, he blocks. Now I cannot take on f7, but it's a draw now. It's a draw. This is the magic, guys. I go bishop f1. I'm just, in future, I want to maybe even go bishop a6 because this is pinned. And if I manage to get my king here, then I'll be able to go bishop a6 and just trade everything and take this pawn and queen my pawns. So that's one of the ideas. Another idea is if need be, and if he pushes these pawns, this bishop might in future be able to stop those passed pawns. Not now, because the queen is controlling the square, but in future. So that was the idea behind this bishop move of mine. So he takes his pawn, he takes my pawn here, and I take his pawn. And it turns out I'm very fast. My pawn is closer to the queen in square than his pawns, and he will require a lot of time to push his pawns. Whereas I will require just like 1, 2, 3 moves, and he cannot stop me. And he has to make a draw. And he perpetually checks me. And it's a draw. So here we agree to a draw. It will be a threefold repetition after king f3. So it's definitely a draw. Because he cannot do anything. My opponent could not believe this. He was frustrated, obviously, with himself. I was happy. I was frustrated because I did not utilize my opening advantage, obviously. Around here, I was sure I had a great advantage. And the engine says it's close to +1. But it happens. Also, I had a big lead on the clock. That helped because at the end of the game, that played a role. So I think a draw is a nice result for this game. I'll try to score some wins in the remaining 2 rounds. And see you in the next one. Don't forget to comment. That will make me happy. And like this video.